the prophet of 2025, Ryo Tatsuki's chilling visions and the hidden agenda revealed. They called her an artist, a quiet woman with a sketchbook, lost in her imagination. But what if her imagination wasn't hers at all? What if every stroke of her pen was guided, downloaded from somewhere else? In 1999, Ryo Tatsuki published a humble little booklet in Japan. No bold claims, no cries of prophecy, just images, uncanny, detailed images, a megaquake, a tsunami that erased entire cities, a virus that paralyzed the planet, all drawn long before they became reality. And now, only one vision remains. A date. July 2025. As strange patterns ripple through politics, nature, and human consciousness, we have to ask, has the final chapter already begun? Was Ryo Tatsuki simply talented, or was she tuned into something or someone beyond what we're taught to believe? A higher intelligence, a buried truth, a system quietly unfolding behind the scenes. Because this isn't just a story about predictions, it's a story about control, about whether the future is being revealed or orchestrated. So ask yourself, are we being warned by a prophet or programmed by a plan? You're watching The Journey of Wisdom, and what you're about to discover may shift the way you see time, destiny, and your own role in what comes next. Number 1. Who is Ryo Tatsuki? Ryo Tatsuki, though relatively unknown outside of Japan, has captivated the attention of many in recent years due to a curious and unsettling body of work. A manga artist by trade, she released a small, self-published book back in 1999 titled The Future I Saw. At first glance, the book appeared unassuming, just a collection of hand-drawn illustrations and scribbled notes. Yet, what made it unique was that each drawing was marked with a future date and accompanied by predictions that seemed more like eerie premonitions than imaginative fiction. For over a decade, her work was largely dismissed or forgotten, quietly collecting dust among obscure manga collections. But everything changed when, one by one, the events she described began to unfold with astonishing precision. As people revisited her illustrations, what once looked like whimsical speculation began to seem disturbingly prophetic, and the question naturally followed, how could someone have known? Perhaps the most well-known and chilling of her predictions was the catastrophic 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami. Years before the disaster, Tatsuki had sketched images depicting a massive earthquake, flooding, and nuclear issues, assigning it specifically to March 2011. The shocking accuracy of this foresight drew immediate comparisons to the real-life devastation caused by the 9.0 magnitude earthquake and the Fukushima nuclear meltdown that followed. Her work, which had once been dismissed as a fringe curiosity, suddenly gained a new kind of gravity. It was no longer just art, it was a puzzle demanding attention, especially from those seeking answers in a world that feels increasingly unstable. Another prediction that solidified her reputation as more than a speculative illustrator was her eerie foresight of the COVID-19 pandemic. In one of her 1999 drawings, she depicted people with faceless expressions, all wearing masks, and described a mysterious lung-related illness that would spread globally in the year 2020. At the time, it might have seemed like a metaphor or social commentary, but in hindsight, the resemblance to the pandemic is hard to ignore. Her description wasn't vague, it highlighted key elements that mirrored reality 2 decades later, down to the global scale and respiratory nature of the illness. This raised both eyebrows and alarms. Could it be coincidence, or was she genuinely seeing something ahead of her time? Beyond these major global events, Tatsuki's book includes a range of other predictions that align with significant real-world developments. She illustrated scenes of economic collapse, financial market crashes, large-scale floods across Asia, and waves of social unrest. While skeptics argue that many of these images could be interpreted broadly, what makes her work stand out is the combination of specific dates, visual cues, and narrative consistency. Her drawings are not just vague doomsday warnings, they are composed with intention, each piece offering a glimpse into a future that, at the time of writing, had not yet arrived but now seems startlingly familiar. As society becomes more aware of her work, people are beginning to question whether her visions were coincidental guesses or if they point toward something deeper, perhaps a warning we have yet to fully comprehend. In light of this, many are now turning their attention to her predictions for the years ahead, particularly 2025, hoping to find clues, guidance, or at least understanding in an unpredictable world that often leaves us searching for meaning. Number 2. The Final Prophecy, July 2025. Let's take a closer look at what Ryo Tatsuki called her most terrifying and specific vision, a final prophecy tied to the month of July 2025. In her reprinted 2021 edition of The Future One Saw, she brought back a chilling prediction that she had once removed, a massive underwater rupture occurring somewhere between Japan and the Philippines. Now, why would someone retract a vision so serious, only to bring it back years later? Was it fear, uncertainty, or perhaps a growing sense of urgency? Tatsuki described this rupture as triggering tsunamis 3 times the size of those that devastated Japan in 2011, an event many of us remember vividly for its unimaginable destruction. But this time, the vision went even further. She spoke of oceans reaching a boiling point, not just metaphorically but quite literally, as if nature itself were rebelling. She also described a diamond-shaped impact zone connecting Japan, Taiwan, Indonesia, and the Marianasa Formation that paints a haunting image of the scale and coordination of the disaster she envisioned. When you hear something like that, do you dismiss it as fantasy, or do you pause and wonder what if she saw something we're not prepared to face? What makes this prediction especially unsettling is not just its scale, but the fact that it stands out from her other visions for its clarity and emotional weight. This wasn't a general comment on the state of the world, it was a pinpointed catastrophe. For those who have followed her earlier predictions, which eerily aligned with the 2011 Fukushima disaster and the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic, it becomes harder to simply brush off what she's shared. And here's the most intriguing part: this vision was initially removed, as if even she found it too horrifying to release, yet she later chose to include it again. What changed in those years? Was there a sign, a shift in energy, or simply a deep inner calling to warn others, no matter how terrifying the message might be? It raises a deeper question for all of us. What are we willing to confront about the future, especially when it challenges our sense of security and comfort? If you're listening to this and feeling unsettled, you're not alone. But rather than dwelling in fear, let's think more deeply. What is the lesson here? Could this be a symbolic warning about our relationship with nature, with the Earth's fragile balance, or with the escalating effects of climate change and human disregard? Are we being reminded that everything is interconnected, that an event in one part of the world sends ripples across oceans, across lives, across generations? Tatsuki may not have considered herself a prophet in the traditional sense, but her visions compel us to look inward, to prepare not with panic, but with presence. Number 3. Suppression and Mystery. After the devastating 2011 earthquake and tsunami in Japan, an event Ryo Tatsuki had eerily predicted years earlier, something strange began to happen, not in the world outside, but in her personal life. Ryo, once a quiet yet present figure in Japan's small manga community, suddenly vanished from the public eye. No more interviews, no new appearances, no statements. It was as if she simply disappeared. Those who had followed her book, The Future I Saw, began to notice that it was no longer easy to find. It was pulled from store shelves, vanished from online listings, and became something of a collector's item, passed around quietly like a forbidden secret. This silence and disappearance created a wave of curiosity. Why would someone retreat so completely after their work had proven shockingly accurate? And more importantly, who wanted that work to be buried? Some began to whisper that it wasn't her decision at all. Rumors started to spread that certain unnamed agencies, possibly government-related or tied to institutions with a vested interest in controlling information, had pressured Ryo into silence. Now, whether or not these rumors are true is something we can't confirm, but it does make you wonder, if her visions were nothing more than coincidence or creative speculation, why would there be any need to suppress her? What was so dangerous about a book filled with hand-drawn sketches and strange dates? This is where the story begins to shift from being simply intriguing to deeply unsettling. People began to speculate that Ryo wasn't just imagining the future. Some believe she may have been receiving these images, like transmissions from an unknown source, or even remembering them perhaps from another dimension, timeline, or life entirely. Could it be that her visions weren't created by her, but delivered to her, as if she were a messenger? This idea has led to fascinating debates among both spiritual thinkers and scientific minds. What if Ryo was tapping into something beyond our current understanding? Maybe she was highly intuitive, connected to the collective unconscious, or even functioning like a radio, picking up signals from a higher intelligence. These aren't easy questions, but they do invite us to reflect more deeply on what we consider possible. How often do we dismiss the mysterious simply because it makes us uncomfortable? Could Ryo Tatsuki's silence be less about fear and more about a truth too big for words, something she couldn't explain even if she tried? And more importantly, why do some forces, whether human or otherwise, seem to move so quickly to quiet those who speak about uncomfortable truths? If we really pause to think about this, it challenges us to look at the bigger picture, not just about Ryo's story, but about the world we live in. Who controls information? Why is some knowledge allowed to spread, while other voices are hidden or erased? And what role do we play in seeking truth in a time when it's easier than ever to look the other way? The lesson here isn't about blindly believing predictions or jumping to conclusions. It's about staying curious, listening deeply, and honoring the voices that dare to speak, even when it's inconvenient or hard to understand. Maybe the mystery of Ryo Tatsuki isn't just about the future she saw, but about the kind of future we're creating by how we choose to listen now. Still watching? That means you're among the few who dare to question what lies ahead. Type Truth Seeker 2025 below to join others on this journey of awareness. The final pieces of this hidden puzzle are coming. Don't miss what could change your view of the future. Number 4. Theories and implications. Ryo Tatsuki's startlingly accurate visions have stirred not just fear and curiosity, but deep philosophical and metaphysical questions that continue to puzzle those who come across her work. As more of her predictions have seemingly come true, especially ones that pinpointed major global events with unusual clarity, people have begun to wonder, was she truly a prophet in the traditional sense? Or was she something else entirely, perhaps a vessel receiving information from a hidden source beyond ordinary human perception? This opens the door to fascinating theories. Some believe she may have tapped into the collective unconscious, a term made famous by Carl Jung, suggesting that there is a shared mental space where all human experiences and knowledge are stored, and where someone like Ryo could access glimpses of future events. Others take it a step further, speculating that she may have seen through to a parallel timeline-own version of reality, among many, even gained awareness of a controlled simulation, where everything we perceive as life is part of a pre-written program. In that light, her drawings wouldn't just be predictions, they could be viewed as instructions or fragments of code embedded within the fabric of time itself. It's a bold idea, but for those who've studied her work closely, it's one that doesn't feel entirely out of reach. Could her book, The Future I Saw, be more than a collection of intuitive drawings? Could it be a leaker, quiet exposure of a predetermined future, meant to awaken or prepare us for what's to come? These theories are not about promoting fear, but about inviting us to rethink what we believe about time, consciousness, and reality. And in doing so, they ask each of us to consider how much of the future is fixed and how much of it is still in our hands. Number 5. Prediction and reality. As we draw closer to July 2025, many eyes are turning back to Ryo Tatsuki's haunting prophecy that speaks of an enormous underwater rupture near Japan and the Philippines, triggering destruction far greater than the 2011 tsunami. While skeptics may brush off such predictions, it's hard to ignore the strange alignment between her vision and what's unfolding right now in real life. Seismic activity around the Pacific, especially near Japan, has been on the rise, with tremors occurring more frequently and at unusual depths. Scientists continue to monitor the shifts, yet there's an uneasy feeling growing not just among experts, but among ordinary people. What's adding to the tension is that earlier this year, the Chinese government quietly issued travel advisories warning its citizens to avoid Japan, citing safety concerns. Although the exact reasons were vague, the timing has raised eyebrows, especially since this isn't typical behavior without a solid reason. As a result, travel bookings to Japan saw a sharp decline. People are paying attention, and whether it's due to superstition or data, the fear of something imminent is spreading. At the same time, the Japanese government has taken a noticeably quiet stance. While there's no open talk about any specific threat tied to July 2025, the focus has been placed on preparedness and emergency drills measures that sound responsible on the surface, but also leave many wondering, if there's nothing to worry about, why the increased emphasis on being ready? Are they being cautious, or is there something they know but aren't saying publicly? This kind of silence can create more anxiety than comfort, especially when the patterns start to echo what Ryo Tatsuki outlined more than 2 decades ago. Her description was not vaguish, wrote of tsunamis 3 times the size of 2011's, and even identified a diamond-shaped impact zone involving Japan, Taiwan, Indonesia, and the Marianas. When you hear those details, and then look at what's happening today, can we really dismiss it all as coincidence? This isn't just about predictions or prophecy, it's about how we respond to warning signs, whether they come from data, instinct, or something more mysterious. So, what does this all mean for us, right now? Do we trust in systems that stay silent or take action based on our own awareness and intuition? Can we afford to wait for proof when the patterns are already forming in front of us? More importantly, what does preparedness really look like, not just in terms of supplies or drills, but in the way we live, treat each other, and connect with the world around us? Whether or not Ryo's vision comes to pass in the way she described, her message calls us to wake up, to pay attention to the signs both seen and unseen. The true value in these prophecies may not be in predicting exact events, but in challenging us to become more mindful, resilient, and united. In a world where nature moves without warning and truths are often hidden in plain sight, perhaps the greatest preparation is to live with awareness, compassion, and the courage to question what we're told, so we can shape a future with greater clarity and care. Number 6. Is it a warning or a trigger? Let's explore a deeper layer to Ryo Tatsuki's chilling vision of 2025. 1. that goes beyond simple prediction and enters a territory that forces us to question how reality itself is shaped. Some people have come to believe that her vision is not a prophecy in the traditional sense, but rather a program, an event that has already been scripted into the timeline and is now simply unfolding like a sequence in a pre-written plan. This view shifts the question from, "Is it going to happen?" to, "Is it already happening?" If that sounds strange, consider this. Across cultures and philosophies, there has long been the belief that the mind and consciousness can shape reality. What if believing in something intensely enough, especially when that belief is shared by many, actually helps make it real? This is known as a self-fulfilling prophecy, a psychological concept with powerful implications. If enough people expect a disaster, fear it, talk about it, and even plan around it, could that shared focus somehow increase the chances of it becoming real? This isn't just a modern idea, Buddha once said. The mind is everything. What you think, you become. So ask yourself, if a single mind can shape a life, what can a collective mind shape? This brings us to another fascinating and unnerving idea, that Ryo's book, The Future I Saw, may actually be functioning as more than a warning. Some theorists suggest it could be a psychological trigger, a type of modern-day ritual encoded with symbols and timing, designed to awaken something in the human psyche or to catalyze a transformation through chaos. In this sense, the prophecy would not just be predicting a disaster, but helping to initiate it. It's a provocative thought. Could art, language, and belief act as keys that unlock certain events in time? And if so, who holds the responsibility, the messenger, or the people who choose to follow and believe the message? What if Ryo's visions were not meant to instill fear, but to activate a deeper awareness, one that could lead to change, awakening, or even survival through transformation? In Buddhist teachings, there's a concept known as upaya, or skillful means, which suggests that sometimes a harsh truth or disturbing message is used not to harm, but to awaken. Could her prophecy be a kind of spiritual upaya meant to shake us from our sleep? Let's take a moment to reflect. How do we react when faced with visions of disaster? Do we panic, freeze, or fall into despair? Or do we use that discomfort as a mirror to examine our lives, our society, and how we treat the earth and one another? The ancient Zen saying goes, "Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water." It reminds us that even after deep insight, our responsibility is to return to the basics, to take care of what is in front of us with mindfulness and humility. So if Ryo Tatsuki's visions are shaking us, perhaps it's because they are calling us to return to what we've neglected. The question is, are we willing to listen not just with fear, but with curiosity and courage? Now, I invite you to consider this. If her book really is acting as a trigger, what is it triggering in you? Is it fear, skepticism, wonder, or a desire to prepare, to wake up, to change something in your life? These are powerful responses, and they tell us more about ourselves than about the prophecy itself. And that's the deeper truth here, perhaps. It's not about whether her vision comes true, but about what we choose to do with the awareness it brings. Do we continue on as we are, or do we take this as a sacred pause, a moment to ask deeper questions about where we're headed, both as individuals and as a collective? At the end of the day, we may never know whether Ryo Tatsuki was receiving messages from another realm, predicting inevitable events, or unintentionally setting something into motion. But what we can know is that her message has made many people stop and think, and that in itself is powerful. As the Dhammapada says, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. The mind is everything. What we think, we become. So what are you thinking, believing, and focusing on as you move through this moment in time? Because maybe the real prophecy isn't written in a book or drawn in a sketch but unfolding through the choices we each make right now. So, if the real prophecy is written through our present thoughts and actions, then what should we do next? Don't go anywhere. The next part will be Advice from Buddhism, What to Do in the Present. This is where ancient wisdom meets your life today. Stay with us as we explore clear, practical steps from the Buddha's teachings so you can find peace, clarity, and strength no matter what the future holds. Comment Present Path below if you're ready to walk forward with awareness. Advice from Buddhism, What to Do in the Present. In the face of mysterious predictions and uncertain futures, Buddhism doesn't ask us to believe blindly or to reject what we cannot explain. Instead, it teaches us to return to the present moment with clarity, with mindfulness, and with compassionate action. Whether Ryo Tatsuki's visions are a true prophecy or a symbolic warning, the real question is not, will it happen, but how will we live today? Number 1. Don't live in fear, live in awareness. Don't live in fear, live in awareness. This teaching, rooted deeply in Buddhist wisdom, reminds us that the present moment is the only place where transformation can happen. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha says, "The fool sleeps as if he were already dead, but the master is awake and lives forever." These words are not just poetic, they're practical. Fear tends to freeze us. It locks our minds into worst-case scenarios, often ones that never even happen. When we are consumed by fear, especially the fear of what might come tomorrow, we disconnect from life as it is right now. But awareness, true mindful awareness, does the opposite. It brings us back to life. It awakens us. In modern times, with constant news updates, economic uncertainties, and personal worries, fear can easily become our default setting. Yet we must remember that the future is not fixed. It is shaped, moment by moment, by the choices we make today. Instead of allowing anxious thoughts to take the driver's seat, we can use them as signals, gentle nudges that it's time to pause and reflect. Ask yourself, am I present in my life or just surviving it? Am I acting with compassion for myself, for others, for the earth, or just reacting out of fear? These check-ins ground us. They give us power. As Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh beautifully said, "The present moment is filled with joy and happiness. If you are attentive, you will see it." In that spirit, we can choose to live with clarity rather than confusion, with openness rather than resistance. Even in uncertainty, we can move forward with courage and grace by being fully awake to what's here. So today, rather than shrinking from the unknown, step into the moment with awareness. It is not the absence of fear that leads to peace, but the presence of mindfulness. Number 2. Practice preparedness, not paranoia. Practice preparedness, not paranoia. This is a simple but powerful teaching found in Buddhism, and it's more relevant now than ever. Buddhism teaches the principle of right effort, which means using our energy in ways that are wise and balanced, not driven by panic or fear. So, if a situation or a warning encourages you to take action like storing food, learning basic skills, or staying connected to people around you, that's a wise step. These are forms of mindful preparation. But when that effort turns into fear-driven behavior, constant worry, or emotional withdrawal, we've gone off course. True readiness, from a Buddhist point of view, is not just about what we have in our hands, it's also about what we carry in our hearts and how steady our minds are. Ask yourself honestly, when life feels uncertain, do you find yourself overwhelmed and reactive, or are you able to take a breath, stay grounded, and respond calmly? Real preparedness means being able to stay centered in the middle of the storm. Can you remain kind even when things are hard? Can you still think of helping others, not just protecting yourself? Because that's the kind of inner strength that really matters. As the Zen saying reminds us, when the wind blows hard, the roots grow deep. Hard times don't have to shake us, they can strengthen us if we stay rooted in awareness. So the message here is not to live in fear of what might happen, but to live with intention, compassion, and presence. Prepare wisely, not fearfully. Care for yourself, but don't forget your community. And most of all, when uncertainty comes as it always will, it deepen your roots rather than disturb your peace. Number 3. See the interconnectedness of all things. See the interconnectedness of all things. This is one of the most profound and essential teachings in Buddhism, and it's something that speaks directly to the challenges and uncertainties many of us feel today. Whether the vision of July 2025 is meant to be taken literally or symbolically, the deeper message remains the same. Nothing exists in isolation. You and I are not separate from the earth, from society, or from each other. When the planet is in pain, when the climate shifts, when communities suffer, it is not just something happening out there. It is a reflection of what's happening inside us and how we're choosing to live. Buddhism teaches the law of dependent origination, which means that all things arise in dependence on conditions. Nothing stands alone. Every word we speak, every action we take, every thought we dwell on, has an effect that ripples through this vast web of life. Think about it for a moment. How do your daily choices, what you consume, how you speak, how you respond to others affect the people around you and the world you live in? Are you contributing peace or adding to the noise? The Buddha once said, just as a mother would protect her only child with her life, even so should one cultivate a boundless love toward all beings. This kind of awareness asks us to go beyond our personal concerns and remember that we are part of something much larger. It invites us to see clearly. When we take care of others, we are also taking care of ourselves. When we harm the earth, we harm our future. So I ask you, in your thoughts and actions today, you becoming a source of healing or of harm? Let this question guide you, not with guilt, but with gentle responsibility. Because once we see how deeply we are all connected, we begin to live more wisely, more kindly, and more consciously. That's how real change begins. If this message touched your heart, leave a comment below with the words, "I choose to be a source of healing." Just a few simple words, but they carry a powerful intention, and by sharing it, you're adding your light to a world that truly needs it. Number 4. Return to simple, mindful living. Return to simple, mindful living. This timeless advice from the Buddha is especially relevant in today's fast-paced, unpredictable world. When we feel overwhelmed by uncertainty, confusion, or constant change, we don't need to search for complicated answers. Instead, the Buddha's guidance leads us back to the heart of what truly matters. Avoid evil, do good, purify the mind. This is the teaching of all the Buddhas. These words are both gentle and powerful, reminding us that we already have the tools to find peace, no matter what's happening around us. In practical terms, it means being kind even when others aren't, speaking the truth even when it's inconvenient, living simply even when the world pushes us to chase more, helping where we can without expecting reward, and practicing gratitude even in the smallest things. These small, consistent actions help us create a steady inner foundation, which becomes more important than ever in times of global tension or personal stress. In modern life, it's easy to get lost in distractions, scrolling endlessly, chasing achievements, reacting to every bit of news, but mindfulness invites us to pause and reconnect with what's real. Simplicity is not about giving up, it's about returning to what truly nourishes the heart. When we reduce clutter, mental, emotional, and physical, we make space for peace to enter. And that peace is not passive, it's a deep strength. It gives us the clarity to act wisely instead of reacting out of fear, to care for ourselves and others without burning out, and to stay grounded in compassion no matter what arises. So ask yourself today, what can I let go of that no longer serves me? What small act of kindness or honesty can I offer right now? In a world full of noise, this quiet way of living, mindfully being present, living simply, and caring deeply is not only a path to personal peace, but a meaningful gift to the world around you. Number 5. Face the unknown with courage and compassion. Face the unknown with courage and compassion. This is one of the most essential teachings Buddhism offers us in uncertain times. If we accept that anything can happen, then doesn't that mean every moment we're alive becomes even more meaningful? Every word you speak, every decision you make, every act of kindness or harm carries more weight, not less. Buddhism doesn't promise a life free from challenges or danger. It doesn't offer safety in the way the modern world defines it. What it offers is a deep and unshakable peace. Not the kind that comes from trying to control everything around us, but from learning to accept what is and respond with awareness. As the Buddha taught, you cannot stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. The real strength lies not in avoiding the storm, but in learning how to remain steady and present in the middle of it. So I ask you, when faced with the unknown, do you withdraw and shut down? Or do you open your heart with courage and compassion, even when it's hard? We don't need to wait for disaster or loss to remind us of what really matters. We can begin now by living with full attention, by being kind when it's easier to be indifferent, by making wise choices even when no one's watching. The path is not about perfection, it's about presence. The lesson here is this: you don't have to control everything to live with peace. What you do need is the courage to stay open and the compassion to walk gently through uncertainty. That is how we honor life, not by fearing what might come, but by living well in this moment with all the heart we can give. So perhaps the true question isn't whether Ryo Tatsuki's vision will come to pass, but rather, what will we choose to do with the awareness it brings? In the face of uncertainty, Buddhist wisdom reminds us, return to the present. Live with clarity, not confusion, with compassion, not fear, and with mindful action, not panic. Because whether prophecy, program, or poetic warning, what matters most is how we walk forward from here. If this message spoke to you, comment below with "present path" and let us know you're walking this journey with awareness. And if you want to keep exploring truth, consciousness, and ancient wisdom for modern times, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Journey of Wisdom. Tap the notification bell so you won't miss what's coming next. Thank you for watching. May you walk gently, live mindfully, and meet whatever lies ahead with courage and heart.